is Dora here or did she leave again? I think she might be having problems, technical problems, not personal problems. We're going to look at what is leading a virtual meeting, because in session 1, we looked at participating in a virtual meeting. So we looked at things like introducing yourself, asking questions, making comments, using active listening skills to take part in a conversation in the virtual meeting. In part 2, managing the conversation, managing the virtual meeting, we looked at kind of like the process and the operations. Today is more about being a leader and what it is to be a leader on a virtual meeting and how you can encourage your team to take part in a conference call. I've got lots and lots of language towards the end of today, professional language for virtual meetings. And really the language we're looking at is facilitation. You can see that in point 3 down here. So I wonder, it might be a Western concept perhaps, but the idea is that a virtual meeting or any meeting, the leader should be facilitating the conversation. So moving conversation around the room so that everyone has the opportunity to speak and demonstrate their value and their contribution to the organization. As always, I don't want to talk for an hour and a half. Please interrupt anytime, provide feedback. Tell me to go slow, tell me to go faster, tell me it's boring, tell me it's really interesting, whatever you want to do. Leave questions in the chat box. Francis will be monitoring the chat box this evening. Thank you, Francis. So Francis will be my co-teacher tonight. We'll stop occasionally for questions, respond to comments, and always just unmute yourself, speak, make comments, and ask questions. Okay. I thought we'd start with a kind of quick quiz, I suppose. Here I have about 4 slides, I think, of statistics around the activities that people do during a virtual meeting. So what percentage of people do you think are doing other work while in a virtual meeting? So you can just type your percentage into the chat box down there. So what % of people are doing other work while on a virtual call, on a virtual meeting? Let's see. 50% of people, 35% of people. Lin Yan, you're very optimistic. Francis, perhaps 30%. Okay, any more takers? 3, 2, 1, and here, 65%. So 65% of people in a survey said that they were doing other work while in a virtual meeting, which I think I have been guilty of in the past. What percentage of people are sending emails while on a virtual call or in a virtual meeting? I'll give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lin Yan, you've readjusted your your understanding. Dora's gone way high there, 80%. So here we've got 63% of people are sending emails. Okay, well, I think we've got 2 more. What percentage of people are eating or even making food? So, you know, cooking some fried rice or making noodles. 80%, 90%, Lin Yan, I don't think so. Okay, 55%. And then finally, how many people are going to the toilet during a virtual meeting? What percentage of people are doing that? 70%, 30%, 66. Any winners? We've got 47. Who's closest? I think Vicky Chen, I think you're closest there. With 47% of people are going to the bathroom. So just some interesting statistics there about the engagement that you have on in a virtual meeting, which is one reason you should definitely always have the cameras switched on. Insist that your team have the cameras switched on. Hint, hint, Edison, Vicky, Dora. Most people find virtual meetings a waste of time. Many people consider virtual meetings a waste of time. Okay, if there are no further contributions there, I will move on to the next stage. So some conference calls just are a waste of time. Chatbot, yeah. Oftentimes we just face silence. You know, somebody will ask a question and nobody will want to contribute. Now, I think that is, I mean, again, we are often approached by senior leadership teams and HR managers with the problem, in our company, no one wants to contribute to the meeting. No one wants to speak up in the meeting. And therefore, our meetings and our conference calls are a waste of time. And I think there are two sides. One, the participants need to be more assertive. For example, Francis, when I asked the open question, would anybody like to contribute? You said, yes, I do. Okay. And in doing that, you're demonstrating your leadership skills or your assertiveness. And as an employee, I see you as somebody who is vital and important in the team. So that's great. But also, it's not just the participants' problem, right? It could be the organizational culture that doesn't support people and provide people with the safety and the safety to want to contribute. So the leader of the meeting needs to use language and facilitation skills to bring people in and to manage the conversation. Okay, we've got more people coming in. Another thing is rambling. Does anybody know what rambling is? No? Okay, so rambling is when you talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Yeah. So you probably all know someone who likes to talk too much, and that can be especially disruptive on a conference call or in a virtual meeting. So yeah, as a meeting leader, you need to know how to politely ask people to quieten down or to stop talking or to get back on track. So yeah, rambling is another problem that we often encounter, people just taking over the conversation. And then of course, people going off topic is another reason that virtual meetings can become very, well, a waste of time. And yet again, as a meeting leader, you need to have the communication skills and the emotional intelligence to bring people back to the main conversation and avoid wasting time in that way. So why? Most meetings are badly organized. Okay. Most meetings are rushed, organized very quickly without any particular thought. The people on the call, maybe the leader, might lack emotional intelligence. So yeah, some leaders and participants on a call might lack emotional intelligence. They might not understand how other people are feeling in the room. Are they feeling frustrated because I'm talking too much? Are they feeling bored because I'm not hitting the key points? So yeah, people might lack the emotional intelligence. Lin Yen, I think this goes back to your point. There's just the wrong people on the call. There's no clear objectives yet. So sometimes, hi everyone, I want to organize a virtual meeting next week. I just want to discuss some of our upcoming marketing strategies. So yeah, like just having a very general idea of what you're going to talk about is not going to promote a positive outcome. The person in charge, the meeting leader, might have very limited facilitation skills. I mean, I guess this might be a cultural point that, and maybe you can interrupt me and correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I find that in Taiwan, from my 10 years of living here and having worked in education at kindergarten, primary, secondary, university, and in business world, I find that the hierarchical nature of Taiwanese society, now that's quite complicated, the hierarchical nature of Taiwanese society, and I would say traditional Taiwanese society. So, you know, that the teacher is the most important person in the room, and they will talk to the students, and the students will take notes and listen. Or the CEO is the most important person in the meeting room. That person will speak and everyone will listen. Now, I think that is one way to manage, but I think most progressive organizations now, most progressive classrooms in schools as well, would argue that you need to have a more inclusive environment where everyone gets the opportunity to speak, and in fact the teacher or the CEO or the senior manager, they should really be listening to the team and taking advice and opinions from their team. It's not just a one man or one woman show. So yeah, a leader needs to have facilitation skills and to move the communication around the meeting room. Okay, so yeah, most unproductive virtual meetings are the result of poor leadership. Okay, in our opinion, in my opinion. So your role as a leader is to create a supportive environment that encourages participants to express their ideas. So that's number one. How can you create a safe environment? You encourage people to express their ideas. Another thing that you can do is to set rules for the virtual meeting. So by rules, it could be how long people get to speak for. It could be who is going to speak and when. The point three, so make sure that everyone participates and facilitates. So yeah, make sure everyone participates and facilitate. Make sure no one dominates. So going back to Edison, your question, how can you create a safe environment? If you have people who are particularly dominant in your meeting, please do control those people. And if you have people who are particularly shy and you know that, try to bring them in. Stay focused and on track and build consensus. Yeah. So build consensus, that might not be clear to everybody. Yeah, so to build consensus means to, if you have some people who are disagreeing, some people who are agreeing, they don't all agree, you as a leader, you have to try and find some way to bring everyone together to negotiate a way forward. Okay, yeah, so just to recap, supportive environment, encourage people to express their ideas. You know, saying things like, Lin Yan, you made a really great point earlier. I'd like you to just go over that point again, because I think it'd be really valuable for the rest of the team. So yeah, so don't worry, Lin Yan, I'm just using an example. So yeah, kind of using positive language, maybe complimenting people on contributions they've made, and then drawing them into the conversation and asking them to share with the rest of the team. You know, that just makes you feel special, right? Lin Yan, you're thinking, wow, Lawrence really thinks I'm a valued member of staff. And yeah, okay, we've got lots more people on the call now. Okay, so we'll move on. It's 20 to 9. We still have plenty of time. So the best leaders are also great facilitators who encourage their team to contribute. And I think that's kind of what we're going to focus on a little bit today. How can you encourage people to contribute to the conversation? So far, key takeaways. I know we've only done, a short part of the call today, but would anybody just like to say, okay, yeah, I didn't really think about that before. That's kind of like an interesting point.
Be a facilitator is something new for me.
Okay, yeah. Very nice. Yeah, and I mean, that's the key point for today's session, I think, really, is that we don't just, as a leader, of course, as a leader, you need to demonstrate your credibility and your understanding of the mission and the objectives of the meeting. But a good leader will balance their ability to control a conversation with also their ability to bring people into the conversation. Okay, very nice. Anybody else? Perhaps let's go for Dora. Are you able to speak?
Yes.
What do you think so far? Anything that stood out or anything you'd like to know more about?
Yeah, the first one is the consensus.
Yep.
Consensus is like you need to make different ideas into one everyone could agree with.
Yeah, so just it's managing different opinions and trying to come up with a conclusion that we can all happily move forward with.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that
Yeah.
one I didn't think about before.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's good to make the meeting have a good outcome and that everyone feel they join the meeting has some meaning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, and another one I want to learn more is I noticed that you also talk about you mentioned that and don't 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 let someone be dominate the meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think of one time I host a small meeting with just 4 people, but this a person she kind of try to be the host to lead
Yeah.
the direction, but it's kind of hard to politely
Mm-hmm.
to change the direction of the meeting according to my agenda. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in that case, you know, you can see that some people might lack the emotional intelligence to understand that the way that they're communicating on the conference call is too dominant, and that it's actually making the conference call unproductive. So,
Yeah.
as a leader, you need to have you need to demonstrate your leadership by using polite and friendly language to say, thanks, Lin Yan. I really appreciate your contributions, but I'd like to kind of stay on track of the meeting today and focus on the core objectives, which are X, Y, and Z. Perhaps if you'd like to talk about some of these issues offline, we can do that tomorrow over a coffee. Yeah, so you can just kind of use like polite language and provide an opportunity for that person to talk with you one-on-one. I think I actually took the slide out on dealing with dominant people. So yeah, perhaps I'll organize another webinar later on to deal with that. Okay, thank you very much for your key takeaways there. I think for me, some of the key takeaways are, well, number one, you get to impress and build trust with your peers, so your colleagues or your clients and your managers. If you are a strong leader, and I think trust is the basis of business, right? If you trust somebody, you'll buy from them, you'll sell to them, you'll work with them tirelessly. And I think the language that you use and having good facilitation skills can build trust. If you can show that you can listen, you can hear people, and you can take action, I think that's one of the fundamental parts of business. The next thing is demonstrating your leadership skills. And of course, you can further your career. If you're someone who takes control of a situation and is able to manage different personalities, so let's say Tim is very shy and Dora is very confident and Abel is a little bit aggressive. As a leader, if you can manage the conversation and manage the different personalities in a room, your senior leadership team will say, okay, Lawrence is a leader of people, and we should be thinking about putting him in charge of more people, more teams, and giving him more responsibility. So, I mean, yeah, like your communication skills can have a truly big impact on your career. And finally, and I think for me, most importantly, is you can promote open, honest, and meaningful communication. If you don't facilitate the conversation, if you don't bring people into the conversation, you might miss very important information. You might find that employees are scared to share very, very important information with you that will impact your business in a dramatic way. And what you need to do is to provide people with that safe space where they can feel like they can say anything. Yeah, I think that is going to be positive in business. Okay, good. So how are we doing for time? We might even finish early. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to look now at the professional language for leading a virtual meeting. And I chose 4 sections to look at today. We're going to look at how you can invite contributions from the team. So these are all kind of facilitation skills. How you can ensure people are staying focused, how you can manage different viewpoints, and then finally, how you can build consensus. So we're going to look at the specific language to deal with these 4 different areas of facilitation and leadership on a conference call or a virtual meeting. The next section is very, very language heavy, okay? I'm still trying to figure out the best way of delivering large amounts of language on a virtual meeting, because I never know who's going to come. And I think in future, I might create a link to material before the session that you can look at. So yeah, and I just wanted to bring in this quote, which kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about silence. Leaders who don't listen will eventually be surrounded by people who have nothing to say. And I thought that was a particularly kind of relevant quote to use today, because not only do you need to listen to people, but you need to provide them with the confidence and provide them with the opportunity to speak. So yeah, I think oftentimes we get brought into organizations to help employees, maybe mid-level or front-level employees, improve their communication skills. I think sometimes it might be more useful for us to work with more senior leaders, because oftentimes it's those people who may not have the leadership skills, the communication skills to work effectively in an organization. So yeah, don't always blame yourself. That's one thing, something that comes up often. Taiwanese people often say, oh, my English is no good. I don't know how to contribute to meetings. Actually, it might not be your fault. The person that you work with, maybe a foreign colleague, maybe a senior leader in your organization, they might not have good communication skills. They might not have good interpersonal skills, and they might not be giving you the opportunity to demonstrate your value. So yeah, it's not all your fault. And hopefully our training, as you move up the organization, you'll be able to become a leader who listens and gives people the opportunity to speak and to share. Okay, so yeah, we're going to look at how to invite a general contribution. Oh, sorry, I've gone too fast. And we've identified 3 ways that you can invite a contribution. Okay, so the first one is that you just invite a general contribution from anybody. Okay, so you could say something like, hi everyone, I'd like to move on to the next agenda item, but before we move on, would anybody like to say, to add something about this? Okay, so there's just an example of some very polite, very professional language that you can use to let the people in your team, or give the people in your team, the opportunity to contribute. Now, the challenge with using a general contribution is that people might not be very willing to speak, okay? But I think over time, as people become more confident working with you and working with you as a leader, they will naturally want to interrupt. For example, even on this call, Lin Yan, what else we've got? Francis, you know, whenever I ask I invite a general contribution, often Lin Yan, you will feel comfortable to just say, yep, I'll do that. Francis, you will often kind of contribute to a general contribution. So yeah, I think because we've built that trust, we've built that kind of, you feel more confident, you're not worried that I'm going to say, no, Lin Yan, that was no good. I don't like what you said. Or, you know, kind of being a bit aggressive like that. So yeah, this is a general contribution. And I think you can start here. Would anybody like to add anything before we move on? If you have silence, then I think you need to go to point 2, which is to invite a contribution maybe indirectly. So you might point at someone to bring them in. So you might say, Tina, you might have something to say about this. Could you share your insights with us? So yeah, before I move on to the next issue, or before we move on to the next issue, I think Tina might have something to say about this. Tina, could you share your thoughts with us? Okay, so again, I mean, I don't want to go too deep into the language today, but could you, obviously being very, very polite, using that kind of more formal language, share your insights, you know, as a phrase that's really professional. You can say, Tina, tell me what you think. That's aggressive, right? Tina, tell me what you think. Dora, what do you think about this? Timothy, and you, what about you? What do you think? Okay, so yeah, you know, using aggressive language like that, of course people won't want to contribute. But here, I think Tina might have something to say about this. Tina, could you share your insights with us? It's professional, it's polite, it's friendly, and I think it gives people the opportunity to say yes or no. Hopefully, as a strong participant, you will obviously take the opportunity to then contribute. Okay, so yeah, we've got number one, a general contributions. Just ask anybody to get in touch, to talk. Number two, indirect. Now, if Tina is kind of sitting there, no, actually, I'm fine. I don't want to speak today. No, that's disappointing, okay? It's really disappointing when you ask someone to contribute and they don't, okay? So my advice to you is if anybody ever asks you to contribute, you do your best to do that. If you don't know the answer, you say, hi, Lawrence, thanks very much for inviting me to speak. Actually, I don't have all of the information available right now, but I can share that with you after the call, okay? So yeah, even if you don't have it right now, you can be honest about that and just, but just still take that opportunity to speak, okay? And then finally, to invite a contribution directly, okay? So Pete, we haven't heard from you. Do you have anything to add? So yeah, just, you know, going straight to the person, you know, actually when I was doing teacher training in school, in college, they advise you never ask an open question. Never say, would anybody like to answer that? Because no one will speak. You always have to say, Francis, would you like to answer that question? Okay, so yeah, I think actually once you've developed some trust with your team and you feel comfortable working with them, you can be a little bit more direct, but we can still use polite and friendly and professional language. Yeah, so those are the kind of, I think my numbering is wrong. 1, 2, and it should be number 3 there. So invite the contribution directly. Now, I've just summarized some of the language here. Now, this is, if the boxes that you see in front of you, this is taken from our training kits, which obviously I can't provide you with in a virtual environment, but I've just copied some of the language from our training kits and put that in here, and I'll try and put that into an ebook for you as well. The idea here is that I've just summarized lots and lots of other ways that you can invite contributions in general, invite individual contributions indirectly as well. And on the next page, I've got lots on how to invite tongue twister. Invite individual contributions directly. Francis, do you have a question?
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt. Earlier, you mentioned to invite contribution. What if the situation is that I would like to share my personal comments? How could we put the word politely? Like, may I share my 2 pennies?
Yeah, okay. So that's an interesting phrase there. So to share your 2 cents, to share my 2 cents?
Yes,
so I
2
think,
cents. Right.
Yeah, so that's an idiom, idiomatic language. Now, okay, I'm not sure on idiomatic language in business communication. Okay, on the one hand, using idioms like I would like to share my 2 cents, or I would like to weigh in on this. So to weigh in, like to weigh, you know. So this is idiomatic language, which obviously only very, very proficient, high-level users of English will be able to use and understand. And I know that when you're doing tests in Taiwan or around the world, you do the IELTS test, TOEIC test, whatever. If you can show the examiner, you can use idiomatic language, your score will go higher, right? But I feel like in business communication, you might want to use more plain English, more simple English, so that people with different levels of English can understand the conversation. You know, if I use a very, very complicated idiom and you don't understand, you will then just have to ask me to clarify what I mean. Okay. So I think you could just say something like, hi, I would like to add something here. Or would you mind if I shared my opinion? Or hi, Lawrence, I'd just like to, I think, yeah, just I'd like to add something here. Yeah. Or I would like to raise a concern, perhaps, or I'd like to raise a point. Yeah. So yeah, there's lots of different ways of kind of contributing. And of course, Francis, that is from our, the first part of our training, which is on participating in conference calls. And we didn't get to cover all of that in our first session, but we might be running future face-to-face workshops where we can cover a lot more of that language. So let's just go back to the previous page here. So yeah, we've got lots and lots of language here for, before we move on to the next issue, I'm sure Tina has something to add about this. Tina, we'd love to hear your comments about this. Tina, please go ahead and share your thoughts. So yeah, very polite, very friendly. We'd love to hear your comments, very passionate language. You know, so I think all of this language in front of you, let's look at a few more examples. Here is really nice. I'd like to bring Jack into this discussion. Yeah, so this is facilitation, right? You know, if we haven't heard from Dora, we haven't heard from Timothy, say, before I move on to the next agenda item, I'd like to bring Dora into this discussion. Dora, do you have something to add about this? Okay, and we're saying, what we're doing there is we're saying, Dora, you are a valuable member of our team. I think you have something to say because you're a smart and intelligent person. Please contribute to the meeting. Yeah, and you should, I suppose, feel happy, right? That you have been recognized as a valuable member of the team. So yeah, using positive, polite, friendly, inclusive language, that's how you make people feel safe. And that's how you make people contribute to meetings. Okay, so I think what I'd like to do here is, Josh. Josh. We've not met Josh. We've got lots of time. Do you mind if I slow down? Josh, would you like to introduce yourself? No? Yeah? Come on, Josh. I believe in you. Do you have a microphone available? Hi, Josh. Okay. Well, Josh, if you feel like contributing later on, please do. It's always nice to meet new people on these calls. So yeah, and then here we've got the kind of more direct way of bringing people into the conversation. Pete, you haven't you haven't said anything about this. As the marketing manager, I'm sure you'd like to make some comments. Or Tina, we haven't heard your ideas. I'm sure you'd like to add something. Feel free to comment. Okay. Now here, if as a leader, I'm pointing to you and I'm saying, I'm sure you'd like to add something. I'm saying you really need to add something right now because this is your job. And if at this moment you don't contribute, yeah, you're really not being a good employee, if I'm honest, or a good team player. So yeah, meetings are places where you discuss and where you challenge and where you argue politely. You know, meetings are not places where you just sit and listen. I can't stress that enough. Okay, so I'd like to try, this might be very, very difficult, a little bit of practice, okay? Now what I'm gonna do is, we've got the scenario, okay? So imagine, everybody on this call, we all work at a new company called Jugal.com. It's a new internet, no, it's a travel company that helps customers book their holidays online. We are having a meeting with our HR team to discuss the company's Christmas party. Okay, so that's the scenario. Now, what we need to do in this group is to decide on the date for the party, what kind of dinner we're going to organize. Are we going to have a set menu, or are we going to have a buffet where people can just walk around and get food? And who's going to attend? Can anybody attend? Can we bring +1, our family? And will there be alcohol or not? Okay, can we drink? Can we get drunk? It's a Christmas party. Okay, so this is the kind of scenario. And what I'd like to do is pick one person, one lucky person from today's call to be a leader, to be the meeting leader, all right? I will just quickly copy and paste this agenda into the chat box, okay? So, does that work? Can you all now see the same meeting agenda? Thumbs up if you can see it in the chat box. Good, okay. So yeah, you're the HR director. We're organizing the Christmas party. We need to discuss the date, the dinner, who can attend, alcohol or not, okay? Now, what I'm gonna do is go back to this page. Okay, we'll just focus on these two boxes because I can't bring another box onto the screen. And now I always pick on Lin Yan because you're very, very confident. Okay, so Lin Yan,
Yes.
would you please
Okay.
kind of just introduce the meeting very quickly. Don't, spend too much time on that because it's just practice. And I'd like you to facilitate the conversation by bringing people into the conversation and asking them to contribute, okay? You can do it directly or indirectly.
Okay. So
Okay.
today's meeting is about our Christmas party. And Francis, I would like to know your opinion about when we should have the party. It's like this?
Very good. Keep going. So Francis?
Yes. Okay, I would like to answer this way. I think we could make a poll to invite everyone and to decide a date together. So the first, maybe we have 3 options. On Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, and let's decide which day is appropriate for the Christmas party.
Okay, so I think now we have 3 options. Then I think better way is to let everyone in this meeting to choose and then decide the highest one with voting. Then we choose that day. And so I pretend we already vote and then we choose Wednesday. Okay, then so I would like to move on to the next agenda item. And what kind of dinner we should eat, for set or buffet? And Dora, would you like to share your opinion? Dora? No?
Yes. What kind of dinner? Set or buffet? Yeah, I think it depends on how many people we would like to invite. So if there are many people from different departments in our company, maybe we should plan a buffet to suit for everyone's need.
Okay, it's good point. So maybe we can go to next point first. Then who can attend this party first? And Tim, would you like to share your opinion?
Of course, every member of our company is to be to be accepted, or they are the basic ones to attend. But I guess they can invite one more people, because
Okay,
we have we have enough accommodations for them.
Okay, now we decide that everyone could bring their +1. So assume we have 10 people in this company, then total is 20 people. So we can choose whether we want to have set menu or buffet. And
Okay.
Josh, do you want to share your...
Sorry, Lin Yan, would you mind if I interrupted?
Yeah, for sure.
You're doing a wonderful job. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I can stop.
You can stop for now.
Thank you.
One, if you don't mind, if I can give you a piece of feedback, you're doing a great job. And yet what I did see was that with Dora, you said, yeah, that's a good point. I think with Francis, you kind of skipped that bit. You didn't kind of say, oh, Francis, yeah, thank you very much for contributing. I really appreciate your kind of understanding. And what you might want to do is use a variety of language. So rather than say, would you like to share your opinion? Would you like to share your opinion? You know, try to use maybe some of the language here on the right-hand side. You could say, Francis, would you like to, do you have anything further to add? Francis, would you like to comment on this? So yeah, I mean, in communication, generally using a variety of language can kind of increase the engagement. People will want to listen to you more because it's just more interesting. Yeah, using the same language again and again and again can become a little bit repetitive and boring. But I mean, I'm being very honest here, giving you direct feedback in front of everyone on the call. I hope that's okay. But yeah, very good. Shall we ask someone else to be the meeting leader, just to continue that meeting? So how about, would anybody like to put their hand up and continue leading that meeting? I'm looking for hands. Anybody raising hands? Okay, no. Well, in that case, I might invite individual contributions. So before I move on from this activity, Francis, I think you might have a great ability to lead this meeting. Would you like to lead the meeting?
Of course. Okay, and earlier we decided to allow our people to bring a +1, and our company employers are like 100%, so maybe a +1 would come to a total of 200%. So let's decide what kind of dinner we are going to have. So, and Tim, you are familiar with the restaurants and catering service around near to our office, and would you like to share your comments on the option of our dinner?
Sure, we have 2 or 3 selections. One is this a French restaurant, Little Paris, and with very authentic French cuisine. The other one is a Japanese sushi house. That is, they have a very special selection of sushis. And the third one is a Taiwanese restaurant. So I guess we can choose from these 3, choose one from these 3.
Okay, good. Let's end there. Thank you very much, Francis. Thank you, Lin Yan, and for everybody else, Tim, who contributed on the call there. So yeah, I mean, on a webinar, we don't often have a lot of opportunity to practice kind kind of speaking activities like this. And obviously in a face-to-face workshop, you could work in pairs and you can kind of very quickly practice a lot of the language here. But yeah, just to give you an idea, of course, you can use polite, friendly language like this. You can point at people and ask them to contribute. And I think just, yeah, remembering to be a polite human being. So you can say, thank you very much, Tim, for your contribution. Thank you, Francis. I really value your opinion. Lin Yen, great job. Thanks for your comments there. I think we can move forward with that point. So yeah, just kind of like demonstrating that we value and care and think that the contributions that people are making are positive. Okay, very nice. So let's move on. We'll move past this and past the practice. We will do one more practice before we end if we have time. So yeah, another part of facilitation is helping people to stay focused. Now, let's say Pete has gone off track. Pete's gone off topic. He started talking about, you know, Japanese sushi for far too long. So Pete, you brought up a good point, but I don't want to get off track. Right now, we're focused on marketing. Can we put your issue on the agenda for the next conference call or for the next virtual meeting? So yeah, there's one example of how you can be very, very polite. You can show that you value Pete and his contributions, but you think that we're getting off track and we need to stay on track. But we're not saying, no, Pete, we don't want to talk about that ever again. We're giving Pete the opportunity to talk about that in another meeting. Okay. So yeah, once again, Pete, you've brought up a good point. So to bring up, I think most of you, your English is quite good. To bring up means to raise. So you've raised a good point, or you said, mentioned, you made a good point. I don't want to get off track. Right now we're focused on marketing. Can we put your issue on the agenda for the next call? Very good. Okay, so yeah, that's an example of how you can stay focused. And of course, again, in our training kits, we have lots and lots of language, professional language about, you know, how you can do that. Another one here, so managing different viewpoints. And I think it was Dora, you wanted to know, was it you wanted to know a little bit more about how you can build consensus? So here it's really about managing the people in the room and trying to make everyone feel like in some way their contribution has been positive. But as a leader, you do eventually need to come out with some kind of conclusion. So you can say, yeah, Francis, I think Francis has a good point about the choice of restaurant. Don't you agree, Tim? Maybe this is something you should consider. So yeah, using language that kind of brings people in, that demonstrates that we value their contribution. So yeah, I've got a big, like the language is coming later on. And the final one is on managing disagreements and building consensus. So you say, well, we can't seem to agree on the restaurant. Perhaps we can do a poll, as Francis mentioned earlier. Or how about this? Why don't we try surveying the team and trying to understand whether we should invite a +1 or not? Or you can say something like, what if we tried ... What if we booked a Taiwanese restaurant and had the buffet? At least that way, everyone can get to eat the food that they want to eat. They can, you know, the last, and then you can say, well, would that work? So would that work? That comes at the end. Something like, well, I mean, you can say, what if we allow people to have a +1, but the +1 would need to pay for their own food? Would that work? I'm not sure. So yeah, would that work? That comes at the end. And again, I suppose there, as you're building a consensus, you're still making it a kind of question where people can agree, disagree, and weigh in on the decision making. Generally, in business, when your team feel a part of the decision-making process, they will be more motivated to execute the project, right? I think that's just organizational psychology 101. Now, yeah, that kind of bottom-up approach tends to take a little bit longer. You know, you could say, well, I don't think we can agree on this, so I think we should book the Taiwanese buffet, okay? Yeah, I mean, there, you're being a bit too direct and top down, I think, and people will feel like, well, Lawrence actually hasn't listened to us there, and he hasn't valued our contributions. So yeah, I think we need to use this kind of language. Yeah, I think Francis has a good point about the buffet. However, Dora also mentioned something about this. Don't you agree, Tim? Maybe we should consider that. Well, how about this? And then provide a solution. Yeah, so this is kind of like the facilitation, the negotiation language that you can use for coming to an agreement. I'm rushing a little bit now. So here, I've again summarized the language on how you can stay focused and on track in the top section there, and then in the bottom section on managing different viewpoints and building consensus. So, well, let's take a look at a few examples. Francis, that's an interesting point. However, I think we might getting a bit off track. We have a lot to cover today, so we must stay focused. Let's get back to our point about ... Okay? And then, Linda, would you like to add something? So yeah, we're kind of moving the conversation around the room. We're being polite. We're trying to remain kind of focused and according to the objectives of the meeting, and then inviting other people to speak. Yeah, so really, really nice professional language here. Jenny, that's a good point. However, that might take us off topic. I'd really like us to stay focused on the agenda items. Now that we're talking about, now, what were you talking about, Peter? You were describing our pricing strategy, right? So yeah, loads of really nice language to kind of like just manage that conversation, okay? And yeah, in the second box down here, do we have any questions? Francis, I haven't been watching the chat box. Have there been any questions in there, or are you just making notes?
I'm just making notes.
Okay, very good, thank you. And then yeah, down here, some other ways that you can build consensus. I think Tom's point about reducing our production costs makes good sense. Don't you agree, Sue? And then Sue will say, well, yeah, I think so, but we should also consider this. Sue, don't you agree that Tom has made a good point about opening a factory in Vietnam? Perhaps you should consider this. I think Tom has a good point about branding. Don't you agree, Sue? Maybe this is something you should consider. So yeah, see there, you're kind of, again, moving the conversation around the room, trying to bring people together. And Sue might think, maybe you're looking at Sue and you can see that she looks very disappointed or unhappy with the decision. Maybe you can kind of convince Sue to meet in the middle. Yeah. I think sometimes business is what it's about, meeting in the middle. Okay, good. Oof, I'm talking a lot. How are you doing? Just give me a wave. Are you okay? Is everyone okay? Yeah, Lin Yan, you're okay. Good. Thank you, Francis. Yeah, I mean, for the new people on the call, let's just take a look. I know sometimes you're a little bit shy about having your cameras on, but it really does make a big difference for me. Today, I'm pretty much only presenting to Lin Yan and Francis because they're the only two people I can see, right? So in future, if, you know, it really makes a big difference if you activate your cameras, we can get to know each other a little better, get to see you, and I don't know, you know, we get to build relationships. This is networking as well. Feel free to kind of chat to each other after the session and, you know, learn more about each other's businesses. Okay, good. So yeah, very quick, again, introduction to some of the language that we can use for staying focused and on track, managing different viewpoints and building consensus. Again, I will try to include this language in the ebook so that I can share that with you afterwards. You can review it and then use that in your day-to-day business. The webinars are really just a good way of reaching people in different locations, providing some insights and providing some knowledge. Webinars are not really a great way of having lots and lots of practice and feedback. We do virtual seminars where we have just 2 or 4 people on a call. And then, of course, you can have lots more feedback. And of course, face-to-face training, that's perfect, right? Face-to-face training, it's far easier to manage the conversation and the training so that people can practice and get lots and lots of personalized feedback. But yeah, I just wanted to include this because it is really key language that kind of builds on the concepts that we were talking about earlier. Okay, practice 2. Who's going to lead the meeting now? So it's the same practice, okay? But we've got new language. This time, when we're discussing the conversation, when we're discussing the business scenario, I want us to use the language in front of us. So we're going to have a bit more of a, all of us are going to have to contribute a little bit more now so that the leader, the meeting leader, has the opportunity to get people back on track and to build consensus, okay? So Dora, Tim, Abel, Edison, Francis, Josh, Linyen, Lucy, Timothy, Tim, we've got so many Tims, Vicky. Please do try to contribute to this section of the practice and to try and kind of make the meeting a little bit challenging for the meeting leader. So the meeting leader has to interrupt you and get us back on track, okay? So this might get a bit messy, we'll see. Dora, we've worked with you before. Dora, this is your time to shine. Could you be the meeting leader and just kind of introduce one of the points that we need to discuss as a group? I'd like you to bring people into the conversation and then feel free, anybody else, to interrupt. And Dora, I'm going to need you to try and get us back on track if we feel like the conversation is going off, okay?
Okay.
Good. Action.
I try. Okay. What we are talking about now? Okay.
If you scroll up in the chat room, you'll see.
Hello, everyone. Now we are going to talk about our annual party. So now we have 3 days in July. I want to know everyone's opinions about which day you think is a good day for the party. No one. Well, Edison, I think you are very proactive before. So would you like to add some opinion about this?
Yeah, but probably we can choose next Friday because after we can have a celebrate party next Friday night. Yeah, we can drink, we can get drunk because we can take a rest on weekend.
Hi, Edison. I think that's a great point. You know, where do you think we can get drunk afterwards? Should we go out to the nightclub or should we go to KTV? What do you think we should do after the meal?
Yeah, I just think probably we can get drunk because we can take a race on the weekend.
Yeah. Do you remember last time when we got really drunk and we went down to the KTV? That was great fun, right?
Yeah.
Dora, interrupt.
Yes, Lawrence, I think you brought out a very interesting point, but I think we have limited time to discuss about the day, so we need to focus on this topic and continue.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Sorry, Dora, I'll... Okay, yeah, so I mean, I would just pause there. Yeah, so there's an example. When you see 2 guys starting to talk about getting drunk in a conference call, obviously, Dora, I think you should probably interrupt a little bit sooner and say, Lawrence, yeah, thanks for your contribution. However, it might take us into a new topic, or that might take us off topic. Let's stay focused. Yeah, so yeah, as a leader, you want to demonstrate a little bit more assertiveness there, and please do interrupt me because everyone else on the call will be sitting back and thinking, what are Edison and Lawrence talking about? And why are they talking about that now? This is such a waste of time.